We raised cotton. I
Yeah.
spent all my early years in the cotton patch, and hay patch, and on the farm.
On the
and
farm.
So we had cows, and we had pigs, and we had watermelon patches. We had everything a small family farm would have. And as I look back on that, I'm glad for that heritage.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to go back to it. But I have very fond memories of those years.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody, we start reminiscing and talking about our past lives, and we think about, I think our brain does that to us. We try to wash away the bad stuff and remember all the good stuff that we can, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
I mean, it is, but it's bittersweet.
Sure,
But
sure. Now, what about school? You went to where?
I went to Lawrenceburg Public.
Lawrenceburg Public.
I was right on the line. The bus came to my house from Lawrenceburg,
Okay.
and the one from Leoma did not. And so we went to Lawrenceburg. All of my family did.
Okay. Now, you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, Dwayne, my younger brother, he works here.
Yes.
And I had two brothers that I passed on, Ernie Wright, and Melton.
Okay.
And I have four sisters.
Wow, y'all had a pretty big family.
Vanderby Franks is my sister.
Okay.
Doris Bryant is my sister.
Okay.
Jean Rochester is my sister. And Betty Gail Ray is my sister, and that's Keith Ray's mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tanner Ray's
Okay.
dad.
Okay.
Keith is, yeah. But that's our family.
All right. Well, so you got a big family.
We have a big family. A lot of us at the family reunions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after I got 16, I thought I was grown up, so I got a job at the A&P grocery store on corner of 4th Street and 43 here, and I worked there for a couple of years.
At 16.
Yes. Well, actually, before that, my two brothers owned the service station on the where the parking lot of down here in the Cyclone Corner. Where Rick's building is there.
Okay.
Used to be a Goodyear service store.
Yeah, there
right
was a
there,
Goodyear
right.
store there years ago.
They had the service station right in front of it, and I worked it ever since I was probably 13.
I don't know if I remember the service station, but I do remember the Goodyear building.
It was a pure station.
Okay.
I did that, and then I worked for A&P for a couple of years, and while I was in school. And then after that, when I got out of school in '67, I enrolled in TCAT and Hohenwald in the industrial electricity class.
Okay.
And after that stage, they began an electronics class, and so I attended it for a couple of years.
Well, you must have been kind of drawn to that.
Oh yeah, that's always been my love. It's been the electronics, radio.
Did you have radio growing up?
When I was a freshman, I guess as a freshman in high school, I don't know. I was in high school anyway.
Yeah.
I built a AM radio transmitter and entered it in the science.
Oh, really?
Competition at high school. I won second place, but
good deal.
But that was fun. We used to have a lot of fun with that. But in the electronics class, and I was when I went to the electronics school in Hohenwald during the daytime, I worked at Murray full time at night.
Okay.
For parts of 2 years.
What part of Murray?
I was in the final assembly, Velocycles, that area. And, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the people that I got to work with, but it didn't take me long to realize that that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
But it got to where I thought I was tough, I guess. I could do it, but I couldn't do it. I did it for parts of 2 years, and I had to do something else. I went to work for G.A. Duke at Sunny Duke at Swap and Shop Center.
Yeah.
Working on televisions with Noah Grinder.
The old Swap and Shop Center.
And after that.
So you got into electronics pretty young.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, when I got married in '69 to my sweetheart from Hickman County. Her name was Janet Lynch. They lived north of Cornwall, almost 10 miles. And in the process of all that, the nighttime instructor's job, teaching job, came available at TCAT, and I did that for parts of 2 years. I was the instructor in night electronics.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it was fun, and after that, I got out of. I saw that teaching wasn't for me either. Okay. So.
That's a tough job.
It is. It's a hard job.
Yeah, teaching is
God bless all the
my
teachers.
wife taught for years, and I understand. I know teachers, and teaching is a tough job.
But after that, I was a guy from Pulaski, Ron Solomon. At that time, you had to have a first-class FCC license, commercial license, to work in radio, doing what I was doing.
Yeah. Now, what was you doing? I mean, you were trying to have a radio station at that point?
No, I was, in order to build a radio station and operate it, the licensee had to have on staff a full first-class FCC license holder.
Okay.
And I had that.
Oh, okay.
So that was as high as you could go in the government licensing process at the time, was the first-class FCC license.
Okay.
Well, they sought me out. I was working at Swapping Shop one day, and he came in and wanted to know if I'd be interested in doing that. And, of course, I said, well, sure, let's talk.
Yeah.
And I went to work for them in 1970, and I put together what was then WMGL.
WMGL.
Right, in Pulaski. We built it south of town at Anthony Hill.
I know where that is.
Yeah, and it was south of town because of the rules and regulations of FCC, having to be so far away from adjacent channels and that sort of thing.
Do you remember about what year this was?
That was 1970, January 6th.
So 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Was there another station there in Giles County at that time? Or?
Not an FM station.
Not an FM.
The WKSR was there.
KSR was already there.
Right.
Okay.
No, they've been there since 47.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did and I had great respect for them. They were competitors, but they were good at what they did. George Martin and that group did.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with them. So I kind of tried to follow their example in what they did in the community service, and they were real big in that.
Right.
And so I got schooled, even though they didn't know it. I got schooled by the crowd at WKSR.
Okay. Yeah.
So
kind of learn from your competition a little bit. Yeah.
And I worked there at WMGL for it's over 4 years, about 5 years, I guess.
Now, what was your role there? What was your responsibilities there?
Well, I was the chief engineer.
Okay.
I was the news gatherer.
Okay.
I was the salesman. I was the tower climber.
We're going to get to that. I want to get to
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I did. That's where what I knew about radio was from doing it.
Okay.
That's just like you starting out as an auctioneer. You never had a sale before.
Right.
But you had one.
You had one.
And then you grew and learned from that, and that's
Right.
what happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I cleaned the bathrooms. I picked up cigarette butts on the parking lot.
You did what you had to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did it all. And so I always thought I had a pretty good work ethic. I wasn't lazy, but like starved to death. I think I made $106 a week, and I had a $200 a month house payment.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
That's
a whole different world.
Oh, yeah. So I understand when people say, man, things are tough. I don't think they know what tough is till they...
Now, what was the format of WMGL when it first started?
When it first started, it was easy listening.
Easy listening.
Yeah, and that was not the thing to do at the time in Pulaski, Tennessee. That was a country town.
Yeah.
And so
easy listening was like, I don't know, like Frank Sinatra, that kind of thing, or
stuff you'd hear in the dentist's office while you're
Okay.
waiting on.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So I mean, I liked the music, and
Yeah.
I learned a lot from that music. But it was not something that the average business owner wanted to advertise on, and it was
Right.
tough. It was really hard. Eventually, after, I don't know, I think I'd already gone from there when they changed it over to country.
Yeah.
And then it
But
was,
now you didn't have an ownership role at that point. You were, or did you?
I did have a minor
Okay.
ownership role.
Okay.
Yes, minor, very minor, but I didn't start out that way.
Okay.
Times are tough. Wolf was at the door, and, station needed money, so they offered to let me in at give them a little money and get in. I went and borrowed the money. My dad signed for him, co-signed for me, and
Took a chance.
took a chance on
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and it was a horrible experience in one way, but it was a learning experience in
sure.
the other way. So I got a lot of that type of value from it. Not financial, but that kind of value I got from it. So I was about to starve to death, and my house was about to be sold, and so I thought, well, I've got to do something. So I started two-way radio sales and service, and I did that for years. I used to do all the paging for the county fire departments, that
Yes.
sort of thing. We used to do all that. And it was.
How did you come up with the idea, or did you see there was a need for that? Is it something? Or of course you had a background now in this, and so the two-way radio thing. Did you say, hey, there's somebody needs to take this over?
Well, the Bill Kemper was the other communications company in the county, and they were swamped. I mean, they were just overrun with work, and they just. Phil told me several times how he wished he had some relief. So I started doing some of that.
Okay.
And it grew into. I did some for the fire departments.
Okay.
Paging and stuff for the fire departments, and in sometime during that 80s, I guess it was, I was involved in mobile telephone and paging for 4 counties. I had Marshall and Lincoln and Giles and Lawrence. And at that time, the Public Service Commission, Tennessee Public Service Commission, granted certificates of convenience, I believe is what they called it.
Okay.
And they gave it to me. Nobody else was standing in line wanting it, so they let me have it. And so I had to scramble around and borrow money and try to build all that stuff. And we built paging systems in those 4 counties.
I remember this coming around.
Yeah.
I remember this coming around.
We did the first mobile telephone service in Lawrence and Giles, Lincoln and Marshall counties.
So this was all new stuff coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first phones were big.
Oh, yeah.
Big mobile phones with a bag.
Now, this is cellular you're talking about. I'm not talking about cellular.
Okay, you're talking about paging.
I'm talking about conventional mobile telephone service. It's not.
It's a different deal.
Oh, yeah, altogether.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Everybody shared one channel
Okay,
in each county.
okay.
And so if somebody was talking on it, you could knock on. It's like a big party line.
Oh, okay.
But we had separate frequencies for paging, and so the county fire departments all got pagers from us.
All right,
So
okay.
we did all that. And then in 1980, let's see, was it 80? Yeah.
Well, thinking about this, Roger.
It was 80,
Yeah, thinking about this, Roger, you were on the very cutting edge of modern day communication. That changed the world, really. I mean, you were in the front end of this.
Well, my problem was always financing. I had big ideas, but didn't have any money to make them happen with. But
hey, me too.
On a small scale, yes, we were. In 1980, we applied for and got a license to operate 620 in Lexington, Alabama. We called it WWLX.
Oh, yeah. So this is the birth of WLX.
That's right. And, people ask, how did we name that? How did we come up with those letters? And I've always been a big music fan.
Yes, I know that about you.
Not just country, but any kind of music I like.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to WLS in
WLS,
Chicago.
yeah.
Well, they had a they had a good call sign, I thought, and they had 3 letters, but we had to have 4 because they were grandfathered in with theirs.
Right.
So with that, and in Lexington, Alabama, that's where the LX comes from.
Oh, okay.
We built that, and we actually bought the same jingle package that WLS had from Jam.
Really?
Jam, yeah, in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Now, it was expensive. It was like, what, $5,000 back then.
Oh, my
so, you know,
gosh.
it's like 50 now.
That's like buying a car.
But it was really, it sounded good.
Yeah.
The jingle did. So that's how we came up with the WLX
Yeah. Yeah.
call sign.
Yeah.
And then when the FM came along, well, actually, we actually had to go. You got a call?
I do. I don't know if they're calling exactly for us or not, but we'll find out. Maybe they are. Hey, good morning. You're on WDXE with us.
Oh, I was just going to throw in my oldest son, Jeff Webb, was in high school when Roger had that radio station in Lexington. He drove down there and was one of their DJs.
Jeff Webb.
In the 80s.
Jeff Webb, yes.
I'm Juanita
Oh,
Webb.
yeah.
Yes.
And Roger was so nice and such a good guy to give my son a job. And I just wanted to tell him thank you.
Well, he did us a good job. I really enjoyed him.
Okay, thank you.
Well, God bless. Thank you. Thank you. Juanita Webb there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
In 87, no, 80, I mean, I can't remember all these dates. I barely remember where I'm at half the time. But we applied for and got a license for 92.1 at Minor Hill.
Okay.
And we had that, and it was WLLX. That's the first station that had that call sign.
Okay.
And so in searching for, we have several translators.
Yes.
Translators are, they're radio stations, but they rebroadcast. It's like a network. Just like you watch NBC on Channel 4. I mean,
Right.
that's a network.
Yeah.
And the translators are the same way.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And so we just rebroadcast
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. Let's get another phone call. Someone else is calling in. Let's see what's. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. I just want to ask Roger one thing. Why have y'all cut off all the local news besides the 7 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I can probably answer that as just as good as Roger. The programming that we're using now fills all that up, so it uses it up. But Roger, you might want to address it. I don't know.
Well, we changed the WDXE to talk radio. Talk radio is the #1 format of all the radio stations in the country.
That's true.
It is. It outdoes rock. It outdoes country. It outdoes everything. And so, in order to have a talk radio, you have to really limit a lot of things you do because a lot of the programming is syndicated. It comes down the satellite at a certain time, and you know, we don't have any choice but we have to run it that way. But a talk radio station has the unique ability to provide outstanding community service.
Yes.
I mean, just like this program here this morning, Jeff does every day. So much can be learned, and the community can be served so well by doing this. But there are downsides to it, just like you say. The
Right.
local news has to be moved around, and this is still a work in progress. I'm not in charge of this particular project. Charlotte is.
Yeah.
And she has done such a good job.
She's done a great job.
And it's so tough changing, you know, like just instantly from one format to another. And I just like for everyone to give us a little time to get it all together. And we're going to do all the local news we can. I promise
We've had
you that.
some growing pains doing this, but it's getting better and better. Hey, thanks for your call, okay?
Well, I like you have 30 minutes of gospel music. Now you don't have nothing.
We do on Sunday
Yeah.
mornings.
We still have it on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
hon.
just
Hey, good morning. You're on WDXE with us.
Yes, this is David Scott. I'd just like to call and state for the record that Roger Wright is the best friend I ever had, and certainly the best boss I ever worked for.
Hey, man, that's awesome. That's good to hear.
David.
He even let me go up on the tower down at Dunn a few times, 500 feet
we
up.
might get to that in a little bit.
He did it fast.
Oh, well,
That's
David, I
pretty
love you,
awesome.
brother, and
He's Citizen of the Year every year in my book.
That's great. That's great.
all right, David,
All right, y'all have a good
check
one.
will be in the mail, David.
Thank you, David. Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
He's-
I think one of the things we should point out is as much as we want to make everybody happy, you can't make everybody happy. And the station's not just for one or two people. The station is for a lot of people, and we want to make as many people happy as we can. And we do realize, like you said, that talk radio is the #1 format in the country, and there's a lot of interest in it. And we do have to make some changes in order to make it work. So the station and the station management, they're doing the best they can, and they've done a great job redoing the studio and getting things up and running. So we just, like you said, be patient, make it happen.
Well, let me say something else about David. He was one of the best DJs I've ever seen, and he never had any experience in it. He used to talk about MASH, mobile. Let's see, what was it, David? Mobile
Army, the MASH unit?
Yeah, but
Mobile Army Surgical
supply
Hospital.
hose, music supply hose. Yeah.
Mobile Army Music Supply Hose. Or mobile
I forget
something.
what the A was for, David. You may have to remind me that he was so much fun to listen to, and he worked with us. I know David was a teacher most all his life, and he needed a break one time, so he worked for us for I don't know, year and a half maybe, and that's some of the funnest times in radio I ever had.
Really?
And David, he made it fun.
That's good. That's good. Well, that's always good to have a fun time doing what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
And I guess you pursuing your passions. Somebody said if you'll do what you love, you'll never work a day in your
Right.
life.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say you haven't worked. You've worked hard.
I think I've worked some days in my life, but I still like.
But you like what you do.
Still what I do. Some of the stuff we do, like climbing towers and mounting antennas and all that kind of stuff. I've done a lot of that. And David was talking about down at the Dunn Tower where the AM 590 side is. We had an elevator that went up that tower. It was a staging elevator. Had a cable hanging from the top of that 500-foot tower.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, David he wanted to go up and cook hamburgers up there on top of the tower. So
now, whatever gave him that idea?
I don't know. One day, David was, he kept talking about going up that tower, and we used to go up it all the time. We used to get in it and flip a lever up.
Yeah.
And the staging elevator would climb up it like a spider would climb up a silk.
Yeah.
A web.
Yeah.
I'll get it in a minute. And so David and I went up there. And David looked around, he had a good time while he was up there. It's not, being up there is not, it doesn't scare me to be up there. What's hard is getting up there, especially if you're having to climb.
I bet.
And, there's been several people went up there. Mike Meek went up.
I remember Mike,
and
yeah.
Barry Mashburn and
Yeah.
I forget who all it's been, but we've had several people took trips on.
Yeah.
And so, but it was, you could get up there and it didn't wear you out. You could get out and you stand out on a hexagon platform up on top of the tower.
Okay.
And, you could see, you could look to the southwest and you could see that whole valley that the Shoal Creek runs down through. It's just amazing what you can see Monsanto Mountain from up there.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you sure can. So on a clear day, you can see forever.
Yeah. I used to live not very far from that tower on Prosser Road. And when we were building our house, I was up on the, before we had it roofed, I was up on the top of that house. And that's a high spot in the county right there. You can see the entire county from that area.
I think it's high. It's not as high as some areas, but
Right.
I think it's like 920 feet elevation.
Yeah.
Which about the highest around here on average is little less than 1,000. So you're right. It's up there about close to being a high area.
Good area.
But we put the AM station on the air, and we were looking for translator sites, frequencies that we could use, and we stumbled across a clear area for 97.5 at the Dunn Tower. It was, if you see a computer program that runs frequency searches, there's all kinds of lines around radio stations, and they can't cross. You've got to have a clear area where no line crosses.
Okay.
And we found that, and instead of being a translator, it was a full Class A 3,000 watt, 6,000 watt facility.
Okay.
So we built it. Built it in 1987, I guess it was, something like that. And from there, we kept looking for ways to upgrade it.
Yeah.
We figured out that we could move it to the studio site here on North Locust and make it a C3 station, which is 25,000 watt station. Well, we did that, built this tower here, did that. And then we moved it on up to what they call a Class C2, which is 50,000 watts. But in order to do that, we had to move it into Giles County, north of the golf course. You know where the golf course is?
I do, Doug.
Yeah,
I know.
it's north of the golf course there, about 3 or 4 miles.
So is this another tower site?
Oh, yeah. It's a 500-foot tower up there.
Right.
Yes. But from that site, I have personally been in my truck, and I have driven from Nashville into Birmingham and carried it all the way.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. That's before there was a lot more clutter on the dial than there was then.
Yeah.
So I know you can still hear the 97.5 signal in Brentwood. You can still hear it in Winchester and Savannah and Cullman, Alabama.
So the 97.5, which is now WLX.
WLLX, yes.
WLLX.
Right.
But it's broadcasting the.
That's what Eddie Landtroop and Mark Rowland and Carolyn are on.
They're on that station.
Right.
That's become a pretty good regional station here.
It's the strongest signal between commercial signal between I guess it's between Nashville and Huntsville.
Nashville and Huntsville.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That was quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of doing, didn't it?
Well, it's step at a time, baby steps,
Yeah.
to get it up to where it's at. But it has always been with Eddie Landtroop, mostly Eddie, and I guess he's the primary one that really helped make the station popular.
Sure.
We built the first radar in 1987, and that helped the stations a great deal.
Right.
On
right.
a radio station, probably still the only radio station I know of in Tennessee that's even got a radar.
Yes.
Now we have 2.
Yeah.
And so, that's the sort of thing. We had Paul Harvey. Remember Paul Harvey?
I loved Paul Harvey.
I remember when
that was probably one of the best things. Not one of the best. I just really think it was good.
We were able to get Paul Harvey in the 80s.
In the 80s.
And that, along with the radar and Eddie and all the other things.
You were pushing all the right buttons and getting to the right places. Let's take a phone call, see if someone wants to talk to Mr. Roger Wright. Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, Roger. It's hard to believe. I remember WC. You was talking about the strength of the stations. I remember WCMG. There by the railroad tracks. CW Road on that, and that was a little 500-watt station. I can't believe that was really gobbled up by all the bigger stations there, wasn't it?
Well, it was moved.
Yeah, it ended up being moved, I think.
Yeah, it was moved to Columbia. CW, which is a good friend of mine, I always just thought a lot of him. He didn't care much about radio. I think somebody kind of talked him into doing that, and he wished they hadn't. So he was able to move it to Columbia, and I think ultimately sold it and maybe was able to come out on it okay. But it was tough being a an AM station in an FM environment.
Yeah.
It still is.
It still is.
Well, Roger, I wanted to ask you too about whenever the Chandlers sold WJOR. Did you consider buying that? I mean, to me, it was a big tragedy. You know, whenever we lost that gospel station, it was so popular. But did you ever consider getting into that?
No, the federal law at that time wouldn't let me own overlapping stations. No, they did a good job. The Chandlers did a good job, WJOR.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Lonnie Box, he worked for us first.
Yeah.
Then he went full-time for WJOR. And then after they sold to Clear Channel, I believe it was.
Yes.
And with the idea that they were going to move it to Florence. And between the time Clear Channel bought it and the time they could have moved it, the rules changed and wouldn't let them do it.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
they wound up with the station in a small market that they did not want, licensed to St. Joe.
Yes.
But no, WJOR was formidable, and they ranked in the ratings in the Florence area. They did a good job.
Did a great job. Yeah.
And so Lonnie's back with us, and I don't remember. I remember. I don't remember too many people that worked down there other than the Chandlers and Lonnie and Mr. Cole.
Yeah.
James's brother. What's his?
Yeah,
I always have a problem.
I don't remember his
first
name, but I know who you're talking about.
But they worked together just like like two people on the air.
Yeah.
And they were good together.
Yeah. Well,
So
good
we
deal.
were lucky to get Lonnie back, and we're really proud to have him.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the call, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. Getting calls here, and the phone number for the people that don't know is 766-9393. Of course, it's a 931 number. Visiting with Roger Wright on Friends and Neighbors with Jeff Hood, and I'm so glad that you came in here this morning. I knew it'd be good. I knew we'd have some good stuff to talk about.
Well, of course, you can't get it all in what you want to, what's happened, but as of today, this radio stations, these stations have 15 stations. There's one in Columbia. There's one in Lewisburg. There's 3 in Pulaski, counting the Ball Hollow.
Right.
The 97.5 over there. We have 107.7
Right.
that rebroadcasts WKSR.
Yes.
I mean, and that's something we didn't get to back in 15.
Okay.
When I think Mr. Lake, Herschel Lake, which was a fine gentleman, I really did think a lot of him.
Yes.
When he passed, the family decided to sell the radio stations.
Yes.
And so we were contacted by them, and we wound up buying WKSR.
Yes.
And the 98.3 signal that I built in Pulaski in 1970, WMGL, but I think it was WDXE FM at that time. But we wound up with their properties,
Okay.
which WDXE AM was one of them.
Right.
And so this station, WDXE, has 2 rebroadcast stations. Has one in Loretta on 95.3.
Yes.
And has one here in Lawrenceburg on 105.3. And then, of course, we have the 1370. The primary station is WDXE AM.
Right.
And in Pulaski, WKSR has 2 rebroadcast facilities. One is 100.9, located right in the middle of Pulaski above the courthouse on
Yes.
Fort Hill. And the other one is at the Ball Hollow site where 97.5 is on 107.7.
It's amazing. How you keep up with it all.
And then we have a station in Muscle Shoals on 103.5 that rebroadcasts WLX.
Yeah, so a lot of these stations, when you say stations, they are licensed stations, but they're rebroadcasting 1 or 2 stations. So
Yes.
we're actually rebroadcasting on how many stations are there that are being broadcast?
15.
I understand that. But
Oh,
as far as
how many primary
how many
stations?
studios, how many
Primary
studios?
stations.
We've got the WDXE studio here. We've got the X radio studio
Yes,
here.
that's on WWLX is the X.
All right, and then
We have WKSR has the primary stations are WKSR AM,
okay,
WLXA FM, which is the 98.3 signal that used to be WMGL, and we have it too.
okay,
It serves the Florence market.
okay,
And then we have WDXE, of course.
yes,
How many is that?
that's 3 so far. We've got in this building alone, there are 3 studios.
Right.
We've
That's
got,
right.
we've got the where Mark Rowland is, which is
Right.
WWLX. Is that right?
No, it's WLLX.
WLLX.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
WWLX is the X.
that's right. Then the X. Okay.
And WKSR now,
Now the formats we're talking about. There's country station, which is the big flagship station.
right, 97.5 is a country station.
97.5. And then the X station, which is
Classic rock.
classic rock and popular.
Right.
And then we have us,
Right.
WDXE,
That's
where
right.
I sit in the mornings. And so those are the 3 studios here. And then you got a studio in Pulaski,
Right behind the Legends
right behind Legends
in
in
Pulaski.
Okay.
And they run oldies.
So
Very good format.
so those are the 4 studios. And is there another one that I'm missing?
Well, there's the WLXA primary station, which is 98.3, but we simulcast that station with the 97.5 signal because it serves the North Alabama area.
Okay. Very good.
Now, we got them all in.
You got them all in. How about that? Well, I am only focused on here mostly, WDXC, and I get the privilege of doing the morning show here. We call it the Wake Up Show, and of course I remember when WDXC sold and you bought it. You and I had some conversations during that time about what could take place and what might take place, and I want to tell you that I appreciate the idea or the fact that you let me stay on board.
Hey, that's our good luck.
And do what we're doing. So it's been a great joy here to do the Wake Up Show.
Well, I can tell you from your show and what I've heard your crew doing that give it 3, 4, 5 months. It's
Yeah.
going to be bumping the #1 station in town.
I think it will too.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be all right. It's gaining in popularity, and of course we have the advantage now of so many different medias to broadcast on. We're on the radio signals, the AM and the FM, but now of course social media has taken over. And you and I were talking earlier about the fact that you were kind of on the cutting edge of this communication world. When a lot of us were just babes in the woods, you were looking at it in a different way than most.
Well, a lot of my views on the radio is from human nature. People are basically, in a way, lazy. So,
Well, yeah.
and while social media is a good thing, I mean we use it daily. It's not going to replace radio. With radio, you can do anything and listen to radio. You can drive down the road, you can drive a tractor, you can haul hay, you can work in a factory, you can work in an office, you can do anything and still listen to radio.
Right, exactly.
But a lot of your employees better not catch you on Facebook on their time
Yeah.
and on social media.
Even though they do it, but yes.
Well, I know it. Some of them do. But
Yeah.
radio, if you want to go somewhere, you get in your car, you turn the radio on, and bam, it's there. You don't have to worry about an iPhone and Bluetoothing it to your radio and all that kind of stuff. That's okay when you're a techie kid. But when you get older and you have responsibilities and you have family,
Yeah.
you don't want to mess with all that crap.
Yeah.
You just want to turn the radio on, listen to it, and go on down the road and slap the kids in the back seat while you're at it.
Well, I'm one of those like that. I like my radio. I like when I get in the car, I've got something on the radio, one way or the other.
Right.
I've got something on. Now, I happen to be and have been, and you know this about me, I am a talk radio junkie. I like the talk radio.
Oh yeah, I do too. I like talk radio.
I zero in on the talk radio a lot, one way or the other, and so I'm kind of happy with this transition, even though it's been a little bit of a challenge. But I'm kind of happy with it. Well, what's the future like now? Oh, you know what? I want to change gears on you just a little bit, because we've talked about your background and your especially in the radio world background. But you are a musician, and you love music, and you have a band.
Now I'm a wannabe musician.
Well, I know, I've heard you guys, and you've been doing it a long time. Y'all have the I can't remember the name of the band.
It's a country cafe band.
Cafe
Dan
band.
Hollander labeled.
How did that get started?
Well, Robert Pulley and I would come up here, and we had guitars, and we'd get back here and play and cut up and carry on. So then along came Anita Smith, and Heather Freeman, and Jim Tegens, and Clay Wilson was our drummer. We've been playing for about 22-3 years. Back in the back of the radio station, what Dan Hollander labeled the Country Cafe.
Okay.
And he called it that because we were bringing acts back here. We would bring them back there and feed them and let them do their show. Like somebody comes out with a new album.
Yeah,
a new
I
song.
remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
We would let them do their show back here and broadcast it on the radio and feed people.
Yeah.
Therefore, Country Cafe.
Country Cafe. That's pretty good.
But we still play every Friday night, and we have fun.
Let's see who's on the phone. Hey, good morning. You want to talk with Roger?
I just wondered, maybe it's my radio, but after your program goes off in the morning, I can't get WDXE until over in the afternoon.
Well,
you must have one of those Chinese radios.
You got one of them radios playing tricks on you. Are you listening to? Are you on the FM or the AM?
AM.
Well, try switching to FM and go to 105.3 or 95.3. One of those two, and you'll hear the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, hon. Very good. Yeah, we get a call like that every once in a while where someone can't quite get it, and if they've got it on that 80 AM, that AM's just not quite the same.
Well, in Lawrenceburg it is.
It's good right here if you're right in Lawrenceburg.
It's
That's good.
I mean, I can hear that 1370 AM.
So y'all
signal
started
about anywhere you want to.
So y'all started playing music. You had the guest bands in and guest artists. I remember some of that.
we had Dan Hollander was well respected in the music industry in Nashville. I mean, they all knew him. They'd call him and they want to know how their songs are doing. Job Charlotte's doing now. But Dan, he just loved it, and he would go to their seminars, and I mean, he was just a big part of it. Well, those artists then, they put out a new. I mean, we've had big people here. We've had Ricochet and Bellamy Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just been so many big artists that were here back during the 80s and 90s, I guess, mostly, and we would let people win tickets, and then we'd feed them. Sometimes we'd feed them a good meal, and sometimes we'd give them hot dogs.
I remember.
Depending on what we could get our hands on at the time. So that's how Country Cafe came about, and we were raising money for the other part of the cafe, for Red Cross.
Yeah.
And I guess through the radio stations and Red Cross, we probably raised over $500,000 for this community in disaster relief.
Yeah.
And we didn't raise it. We were the vehicle that put it out there, and people had an opportunity to contribute to it. And that's what it's always been. The radio station deserves very little credit for that, except they were there to promote it. And so we still do that. If we have a fund that the Friday night shows benefit.
Yes.
And somebody's house burns and they have a need, then we will help them to whatever degree we can.
It's been a great community effort all the way around.
Well, we've tried.
Done awesome.
And we hope we can still try some more.
Now, so the Country Cafe Band and the Country Cafe still is growing strong?
It is.
And y'all meet usually on Friday evenings?
Friday nights, yes.
And
7
now
o'clock.
is pretty much the public invited, or anybody can come?
Anybody can come.
Yeah.
There is a donation jar there that we ask people to put $5 in. If you can't do it, if you don't have $5, you come anyway.
Yeah.
But we take that money and we build it up, and then we.
Well, I've come a
Give it
time
up.
or two. It's a lot of fun, just good, clean, wholesome fun. And y'all play good music, play some of the old favorite songs that we like, those kind of things.
And it's family fun. I mean, there's no smoking and drinking, and
No.
try not to have any cussing back there. Sometimes,
Unless you break a guitar string or something.
Sometimes the audience just don't like it.
They don't like what you're playing. Huh? So who's your band members now? Who's playing with you and singing
Well,
with you?
there's Walter Wood.
Okay.
There's Robert Pulley,
Yeah.
Anita Smith, Carolyn Thompson.
Yeah.
That's the Carolyn in the morning with
Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah.
and me. That's it.
Awesome.
Sometimes we let Halen Boston sit in if we're really desperate for somebody.
I play bass a little bit and play
okay.
guitar a little bit, but not a lot. And so one of these days I want to slip in and play.
Okay, come on.
One of these days I'd like to try it. Now I'm probably a little rusty.
Well, let me tell you this. We used to have a full band. You know, we had the whole gamut.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was such a hassle getting all these people there together every week.
Yeah.
And some weeks the drummer would not let us know till the last minute he couldn't show up, and then the bass man do the same thing. It got to be such a hassle that it just wasn't worth the headaches. So we have installed a computer-based program system. It's similar to karaoke.
Yeah.
But the music back here is absolutely out of sight. Now,
That's awesome.
The music the singing may not be very good, but the music is great. And,
So y'all not playing instruments
well,
much
we do.
anymore?
We play along with it.
Okay.
Yeah, we assist it, kind of like you do with this computer system
okay.
here.
Okay.
You don't play CDs, and you don't spin records. This is a computer-rated system. That's what
Okay.
this is back in the back.
Yeah, that's the technology that's come around in that is just amazing. It really, really is. That's pretty awesome. Well, we have been enjoying a great morning here with Roger Wright, and of course the phone line 766-9393. But we're going to hit a hard break here at 8:00, and we got a few more minutes left, and we've enjoyed you coming in. I'm going to have you in again because I think we've just scratched the surface of all the things that you've touched and been involved in. Of course, we could talk a good while about the fact that you guys put in the radars, which was a big deal. The weather radars, and Paul Harvey. You and I could talk for days about that because I loved Paul Harvey. And you've got there's a picture in the studio here of you and Paul Harvey.
And once upon a time, Paul Harvey was coming to Mars Hill in Florence.
Okay.
And our radio station was a Paul Harvey affiliate.
Okay.
So when he was going down there, I guess I was pretty naive. I just went. I didn't have a ticket. I didn't know anybody and didn't know Paul Harvey and whatever. So when I got down there, they were very nice and gracious and accommodating to even let me in.
Yeah.
But they did. And so I got to meet and talk to Paul Harvey and have a picture of him with me.
Well, that's pretty fitting, I think, that because you were so involved and have been for so many years in establishing a radio presence here and radio stations here in our market area, in our little hometowns and neck of the woods here, and then to have this nationally recognized radio man to be with you. So there you are.
Well, that was just a fluke. But
It's all right.
This town has had good radio stations. I mean, Foxy Griffin and Jackie Cheatwood and Larry Moore. I graduated high school with Larry Moore. I think he graduated. Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with those guys. Miss them.
Oh yeah.
And
they were great.
Great folks.
And they did a good job
And
in the
there's great-
community.
And there's great folks here. There's great folks here. You've kept it all together, And
got a good crew.
And we've got a good crew. Good family business. You've got family involved now and all that, so that's good.
Sometimes it's not good, but I guess overall it's pretty good.
That's good. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you for
We've
calling
got just a few seconds left. Again, Roger Wright, just the anchor here that has made all this happen in the radio world for Lawrenceburg, Lawrence County, instrumental in all the weather and the weather stations that's happened, the towers, the communication that you've made happen, Roger, is pretty remarkable.
Well, thank you. I've had fun doing it.
It's pretty remarkable. We
That's why I look the way I look. I look like I'm about 110.
That's awesome. Well, we thank you. I hope you'll have me back again soon.
Okay, sure.
All right?
Next time, be sure you got plenty to eat when I come in.
We'll have some
I didn't
snacks.
have any water or anything.
Not a thing.
Place is this.
Not a thing. God bless, brother.
Thank you, man.
See you, man.
Lawrenceburg Broadcast Services of Prospect Communications.
He's on his way to Chicago. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's where President Biden will tout his economic agenda today. He talked to reporters before leaving